We're going to start today with a game. I want you to raise your hand if you have ever seen an interview or read an article about the discrimination against mixed race individuals. Okay. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever seen an article dedicated to the discrimination or marginalization of a singular race. Okay, great. So what I want you to do is take those answers, hold on to them, lock them in tight, and we're going to circle back later. But for now, I'm going to tell you guys a story. It's the story of a fight. Now, this fight started, as most things did at the time, with the Black Lives Matter movement. And me and my father were caught in this really heated debate shortly after George Floyd had been killed. And before I go any farther, I just want to say I will never discount my father's perspectives on race. He was born as a black man in 1960s Alabama. And his anger at the blatant and rampant violence towards black people at the time was more than valid and more than deserved, and certainly earned. However, he said something at the time that I couldn't quite get past. Because he told me that I would never know what it was like to be someone like him in that sort of situation. And if you're like, oh, hey, Mia, I hate to break it to you, but you are black. Yeah, I know. Relax. We're good, right? I know I know what I am. So much so, in fact, that I can tell you guys that I am mixed. My mother is Caucasian. Look at that beautiful mixed family up there. Aren't we pretty? But that gives way to what I said next. I couldn't really let that comment slide as much as I loved him. So I looked him in the eyes and I said, Dad, you will never know what it's like to be watching someone who looks like your mother kill someone who looks like your father. And I'm very grateful from that moment that my dad chose to empathize with me and better understand my point of view from that point forward. But saying that really brought up this argument, this problem, this neglect of mixed people's issues for all of the racial torrent, all the torrents of racial inequality and violence. These problems don't get mentioned. And the people that straddle these racial lines fall to the wayside. I'll give you an example. In an article released by the University of Massachusetts, Boston, researchers found that in South Korean children, respondents reported feelings of in-betweenness. And in-betweenness in this context is used to describe feelings of detachment from either side of their family. Why? Well, in South Korea, it is within their culture to have children choose sides. If you are not 100%, you are foreign. These children, these small children, are forced to choose sides that should never have to be chosen in the first place. And whether it's emotional harm like that or physical harm, mixed people face these kinds of dangers every day of their lives. So much so that in another article, this one released by California Baptist University, in cases of multiracial discrimination and race-based stress, respondents were found to experience symptoms that resembled traumatic stress. And if you're like, you know what, that kind of sounds like post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, you're not wrong. Because later on in the article, the authors literally go on to say in these words, these symptoms can be likened to that of post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, we don't have problems. And you know what? Every instance in my life and those around me prove it. I'll tell you about my best friend. We've known each other for 19 years. She's Latina, they're like me, she's white. And she goes to school in North Carolina. But the thing is that in the South, even in 2024, racial lines are still very hard drawn and inescapable. And she went to join an organization at her school dedicated to the unification of Latinos on her campus. But when she went to one of their meetings, she wasn't even acknowledged as being in the room. And I don't mean that in a figurative manner, I mean that literally, because they wouldn't speak to her. So she left. All because she looks white. All because her skin is fair. And you know what the crazy part is, guys? Is that she actually looks like her mother. Like, it's copy-paste. It's crazy. I mean, I marvel at it every time I see it. But they wouldn't know because they made no effort to get to know her. They saw her pale skin and chose to scorn her for it. And that is a reality that a lot of mixed people face. We are turned away from our own people simply because we have a foot in two worlds. We are constantly waiting for the next door to slam in our faces or for this next blow to fall. And it's really hard to come back from something like that. So can you imagine how beneficial it would be for us to see ourselves properly represented in the media, to read an article about a marginalization, to hear a news segment about our discrimination, to watch someone be interviewed who sees the world as we do on the day-to-day, who watches everything occur with eyes like our own. All right. Now that I've given you some explanation, we're going to go back to those questions that I asked you earlier. Now, remember that confusion that you felt, just jumping straight in, no explanation? I want you to take that confusion and we're going to multiply it by 10, okay? Like, just really compound it, and then we're going to stretch it over your lifetime. However many decades you've been alive, get it out there. And you know that, stress that you would feel if you felt that every day? Congratulations, you're officially a mixed person. It's rough out here. That's all I can really say, but it is how we feel every single day. Which is why I raised you the mixed children. Can you imagine how beneficial it would be for these little babies, these little mixed babies, to be able to see themselves properly demonstrated to the world, to hear their stories told? Can you imagine how cathartic it would be for them to be able to go, I've heard that, and I've seen that, and I've been called things like that before? I've been hurt like that before? And I know in the small doses that I've had it, proper representation helped me come to terms with my own history and my own family. Having acclaimed actor and comedian Trevor Noah and the late actor Cameron Boyce helped me better understand my family's dichotomy and hearing them talk about their own family stories. And watching shows like Mixed-ish with my family helped us better empathize with each other. Because we got to sit on the couch every week and watch the Johnson family's plights unfold as not only a family of biracial children, but a family with an interracial couple in the 80s, where families like that were rarely accepted. We got to consider difficulties that we hadn't yet considered for one another up until that point. And I'll be forever grateful for that. And guys, having forms of media like this prove that it's not an impossible ask to have representation like this. Progress has occurred, and surely it can occur again. And what it comes down to, for me, is mindset. And per the Stanford report, mindset can be defined as the assumptions that we make about ourselves, our lives, and the world around us. And if we start looking at things in a more holistic manner, If we start having conversations about race where we no longer just focus on the extremes, but those gray areas in between, a trickle down is going to occur. Bit by bit, we can create much more inclusive conversations so that people like me aren't left out of the equation. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, I don't say this lightly. I'm no optimist. But that is a world where I know we can consider each other to be truly complex, not just in personality, but down to our family history, down to our race and ethnicity. And that is a world where I know, where people like me, the people who have feet in multiple worlds, can be accepted by every single one that they stand in. Thank you.